Are you feeling stuck and uncertain because you need to sell a property but also buy another property at the same time? And you're just wondering, how are we going to accomplish this? It may seem like a huge task and a little bit complicated. Well, the good news is we help people do it all the time. And I'm going to share with you some tips on how we successfully do this every single day and guide our sellers into buyers and make it a smooth transaction. And I'm going to get started now. Hey everyone, my name is Jamey Prezzi. I'm a real estate agent in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. I work with my husband Ognjen Prezzi and our team. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to sell and buy a property very smoothly at the same time while also netting top dollar and getting the property sold quick. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? All right, but first, before I get started, if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another update. We do put out new videos every week. Also use the link in our information box and download our free relocation guides today. Okay, let's get started. One of the first things that I think people often underestimate is the time to sell in a specific neighborhood. Every single neighborhood has its time to sell a property, which we also call days on market. How long on average does it take to sell a property in that neighborhood? Generally speaking, the higher the price point, the longer it can take to sell. And that's mainly because as you go up in price and over certain price brackets, there's only so many buyers in those pricing brackets. Once you get down to sort of the average price or even a little bit lower than the average price for an area, then of course the properties do tend to sell a little bit quicker. The starter price points, they typically sell a little bit faster than some of the super luxury price points. And that's just basic real estate in terms of supply and demand. With all of that said, we can go into our MLS system and pull all of the properties that have recently sold that are comparable to yours over the last 6 months. That's the time frame that we like to use because that's what other agents will use when advising their buyers. That's what the appraisers will use when they're appraising the property, and that's sort of our rule of thumb time frame for how we use to comp properties. So basically we look at what's sold in your area that's comparable to your home over the last 6 months, and then we get an average time to sell, days on market. Sometimes it can be higher, sometimes it can be lower, but it's important to know that if it takes 6 months to sell a property in your neighborhood, you definitely don't want to price that property way too high because you could be sitting on that property for a while. So understanding how long it could take to sell that property is really, really important so that you can plan properly for your next step. Next, like I said before, you definitely want to look at the comps in the neighborhood and get an idea about how much properties are worth. Do not go, 3 years ago. You really want to go based on what sold over the last 6 months because that is what the appraisers will use and that's what other agents will use when guiding their buyers to price a property. Also, when buyers are looking at the homes online, if the property is priced way too high, I can tell you they will not come. We have a guide that we use when we are guiding our sellers in terms of pricing, and just several percentage points off can mean people coming into the property and seeing it or not, or people coming into the property and actually making offers or not. So you have to be very strategic with this because when you price too high, you are pricing that property out of what the buyers in that neighborhood are able to buy, and they will skip the property and move on to another property. This is a very different market than what we've experienced in previous years, so you need to really understand what's going on in your neighborhood. Also, every neighborhood is different. Some neighborhoods are hotter than others. Some types of properties are hotter than others. And so you have to be very hyper-focused in terms of pricing a property today so it doesn't sit on the market too long. And when you overprice a property and it sits on the market too long, you also lose money on that property because it's a time thing and it just doesn't look good and it's not good. So you have to be very careful with that. That's something that we can get into a discussion about at a seller consultation, but it's just important to know. The next thing you can do to make your property sell fast is to make sure the property looks in as good of condition as it possibly can for the price that you're assigning to that property. So if you are looking to get top dollar for that neighborhood, you have to make sure the property is in that same condition. And that may mean repainting the whole house. That may mean, getting a company in to help you stage, declutter, paint, whatever it is, maybe some landscaping. We always say it's ideally we want the property to look like a hotel for the photos and also for all the showing. So as in best condition that you possibly can is the best way to net top dollar and get a property sold quickly so that you can move on to your next venture in terms of buying. Another thing that is very important is to be flexible and accommodating with showings. When you have a property on the market, you have to really take yourself out of that property, all the personal photos out. Everything has to be in a way, like I always say, a hotel, depersonalized without all of your stuff in it, so a buyer can imagine themselves living in that property. So that means all the extra relatives, everybody needs to be out so that we can let the buyers get in, accommodate those showings, allow them to get in and see the property. And when they go under contract, be accommodating to their inspectors, any vendors that they want to get into the property, so that you can move that process along and let them do their due diligence so that they can get through the process of actually closing on the property. So be accommodating with everything. That really goes a long way into getting a property sold in today's market. Next, on the other side, it's essential to plan where you're going. If you have all of this going on with selling the property, you may lose sight of actually where you want to go on the other side. So you really need to be planning that. Some of our sellers are actually relocating into a different state. We have agent connections all over the United States. We can help you with that if you need that. But if you are doing that or you are buying locally, it's key to know where you want to go. What's the price point? What type of home do you want to buy? Exactly what are you planning to do on the other side of this? Because I can guarantee you, as soon as you are not planning for that, the property will go under contract, you'll close, and then you're going to be like, oh no, we have to move out. Where are we going? So have a strategic plan for where you want to go on the other side of this transaction. Selling a home and buying a home at the same time can seem like a very tall mountain to climb, but I can tell you that we do it all the time. We help our sellers and then buyers navigate this process all the time, and we are very good at making this a very smooth transaction. If you have more questions, we're always here to be a resource for you. My name is Jamey Prezzi. I work with my husband, Ognjen Prezzi. You can find us online on Instagram at the Prezzis, and we will see you soon.